Hello, I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for all the support in the previous videos. In this video, I'm going to continue where I left off in my last video. In my last video, I talked about some of the initial tactics that the Lord's Recovery campus workers use to lure students into the Christians on campus cult. The campus worker usually begins by inviting the student back to their house. There, they will love bomb the student while hiding the identity of the Lord's Recovery cult. This includes hiding their own Bible. During this initial stage, they will use a different Bible during their Bible studies with the student in order to avoid any potential suspicions that the student might have. While using a different Bible with the student, they will be speaking orally from the words of Witness Lee. Guarantee it. Often the campus workers will read up and they will do their homework on the footnotes of Witness Lee's Recovery Bible, or maybe his life studies. They'll read specific passages before meeting the student. So don't be fooled if you see them using a different Bible. They're doing this to hide their own Bible from the New Perspective student. And do you think that Jesus Christ, would be doing this? Nope. So yeah, this is a very common initial tactic that they use to literally trick the student into joining the Christians on campus. So what will happen is that the student will start to develop a strong relationship with the campus worker, and this will lead the campus worker into inviting the student to either a home meeting or a campus meeting, or possibly even both. Like I said in the last video, a campus meeting involves all the students who have been contacted by the Lord's Recovery campus workers. Now, I do want to quickly note an important point that I didn't mention in my last video. There are times when the campus worker may invite a student to a campus meeting immediately after initially contacting them. In other words, they may completely skip the initial trust building step that I talked about in my first video. So if you see new recruits being immediately invited to a campus meeting, all I can say is, don't be fooled. There will always be a reason behind this. Possible reasons could be, in a typical Western country, could be that the person is an overseas exchange student who has come to study in a Western country. They may also have absolutely no Christian background, and they may be someone who the campus worker views as a very impressionable young person. In this instance, the campus worker may just invite the new recruit to a campus meeting immediately. I've seen them do this a few times. But in contrast, if the recruit is a typical Westerner with a heavy Western cultural background ingrained into them, and on top of that, if they have some sort of Christian background, the campus worker will almost always take the slow approach to be extra careful. They definitely did this with me. Also, I want to add that the Christians on campus group will always talk about how they're so accepting of all believers and even non-believers. This is not true. They tolerate all believers, but they definitely don't accept all believers. They believe that all Christians outside of their group are meeting in a church system influenced by Satan, and this church system, according to Witness Lee, is the daughter of the mother harlot in Revelation 17, committing spiritual fornication against the Lord. Yeah, and that's a big reason why they actually are trying to recruit Christians into this cult. Yeah, and of course they wouldn't dare mention this to a non-perspective to a new perspective student up front. This wouldn't go down well with the student. Okay, so now we're at the stage where the student has been introduced to the campus meetings. And what will usually happen over time is that the student involvement will gradually increase in this group. They will be regularly going to the campus meetings. They will be attending the social trips with these people. They probably would have been introduced to the young people's meetings. Now the young people's home meetings are similar to the campus meetings, with the exception of some Lord's Recovery members who aren't involved in the campus meetings will also be attending these meetings. And these members will be helping the campus workers shepherd these students into the cult while keeping a low profile. They will also hide Witness Lee's written ministry in these meetings too. Just depending on how many New Perspective members there may be. Also, during this time, the student may be introduced to some lighter Lord's Recovery events, such as children's meetings, or they may be invited to a dinner at a Lord's Recovery person's house. Because often some of these members are encouraged, more like pressured, into buying houses close to the university campuses so that they can help shepherd the young students into the cult. So yeah, over a period of time, it will get to the stage where the student will actually start going out by themselves or in a group to evangelize new recruits, to find new recruits and bring them into the Christians on Campus cult. So once it gets to this stage, the campus worker will probably start to realize that it's time to introduce the Lord's Recovery ministry in written form to the student. This means that the campus worker will transition from speaking the ministry orally to presenting the ministry in written form. But this still could be a risky move due to all the persecution that this group has received. So what they will often do is they will start nice and slowly by giving the student a book titled The Normal Christian Life by Watchman Nee. And the reason why they start with Watchman Nee is that Watchman Nee is considered by mainstream Christianity to be a lot more orthodox than Witness Lee. So if the student shows this book to their parents, the parents who maybe had potential suspicions about this group, their suspicions may start to ease if they know that their son or daughter is reading Watchman Nee. And I do want to add that the Lord's Recovery do read a little bit of Watchman Nee, but it's very minimal. I would say that at least 95% of their ministry and their lifestyles are based on the writings of Witness Lee. So if the student receives the book well, they read it, they like it, and if they don't have any questions or queries about the book, the campus worker might move on to actually presenting Witness Lee's material to them. But that's only if the student doesn't question anything. The campus workers really don't like it when the students exhibit critical thinking. They actually have written an article on a website called shepherding.org, and the name of the article is called Questions versus Questioning. I think it's called that. They don't mind the students asking questions, but they heavily stamp down on any questioning. And I'm going to discuss this in my next video. So overall, I hope everyone watching this video is able to see a picture of what these cult members are doing. In my next video, I will go into detail on how they introduce Witness Lee's ministry to the student. And at the same time, I will talk about how the student is introduced into the Lord's Recovery meetings. These include the Lord's Table meetings, prayer meetings, and many others. And I will also talk about the student conferences, which are called Young People's Conferences in the Lord's Recovery. The majority of the students at these conferences tend to be very dedicated members of their Christians on Campus group. And normally quite a few of them probably have already been introduced to the wider Lord's Recovery movement. So yeah, thank you so much for watching these videos, and please share them with other people, particularly young college students and high school students. God bless.